So, here in the McCormick sewing room, we do have two sewing machines. We have the serger machine here. And we have here the regular sewing machine. I'm going to be demonstrating how we use the regular sewing machine first. So first things first, after you complete the training, you'll get the code to open this box. Inside of here, we have the plugs for both the serger and the normal sewing machine. For the normal sewing machine, we're looking for the smaller plug. You simply plug it in right here. And then into the wall. In order to turn on the machine, you just press the switch on the side. So this sewing machine is a Brother Project Runway edition. On this machine, we have over 150 stitches. They range anywhere from normal utility stitches, which is the top row, to decorative stitches, a mirrored version of some of the decorative stitches, and then some letters. If you want to switch between the regular stitches, the mirrored stitches, and the letters, you press this button here. Every time you press it, you're going to be switching to another mode. So this is the normal mode. So to pick a specific stitch within a category, we have these two dials right here. The first one moves the tens place, and the second dial moves the ones place. In this demonstration, I'm going to be staying on stitch 01. Also, we have two more options up here. This option is for the stitch length, and this option is for the stitch width. Both of these options are in millimeters. So for the first option, if we want the stitch to be 5 millimeters long, we put it on 5 here, and then if we want it 5 millimeters wide, this is also on 5. You'll notice that when you go off of the default settings, the little circle around the number disappears. Another setting we have here is the tension. Typically, you're going to want the tension between 3 and 5, and most of the time 4 is okay. You'll know it's on the best setting typically because of this dash right here. Right here we have the speed that the sewing machine moves at. This is the lowest speed, and this is the highest speed. You can also control the speed using the presser foot, or the foot pedal here on the bottom. In case you don't want to use the foot, you can also choose to use the forwards button. If you would like to use the buttons instead of the pedal, you have to turn the machine off and then go behind here and unplug the pedal. And then when you turn the machine back on, you'll be able to use this option for sewing.
What is that option?
It's just the difference between if you want to have both of your hands here for sewing, or if you are preferring to only have one hand here and then use this.
What does this do?
This goes forward.
Oh, so it goes like that?
Yeah, it does the same option as the foot pedal.
Okay, cool.
The difference between the foot pedal and this button is that this button, you can't really change the speed. The speed is whatever the dial is set on here. However, if you use the pedal, you can go anywhere slower than this option all the way to the highest speed you have selected. This option here is for reversing. You'll typically use this button when you want to secure the thread in the fabric. When sewing with the sewing machine, as opposed to sewing with your hands, you cannot tie a knot with the thread. So you have to use this button and sew over your stitches to secure them. With some of the decorative options, like 64, when you press this button, it just sews in one spot and makes its own knot. This button here is the needle button. When you press this button, the needle will go up and down. If you want to control how quickly the needle goes up and down, you would instead use this dial here, which does the same thing where it moves the needle up and down. In the case that you need to change threads, for instance, from one color to another, this is how you do it. First, you would take the other color off, and you can just pull it through the machine.
Don't forget to make it tidy and put it back.
Tidy it up and put it back on the rack over there. To remove the bottom bobbin, what you do is you open this plate here by pressing this button. This pops up and then you can just pull it out. Right here, you see the bottom bobbin, and same as at the top, you could just pull this out. And then you can also wrap this up and put it back on the rack when you're done. Now to start a new thread, we'll see here I don't have the correct color on a bobbin, so I have to make my own bobbin. We're going to put this thread onto here. And then, in case you have a spool that moves around too much, you can use a disc to keep sure that it won't fall off. Next, you're going to want to find your bottom bobbin that's empty and push it onto this spool here. Take the thread, and now we're going to thread the machine in order to wind a bobbin. You'll notice here that there are pictures and numbers on the machine to show you what to do. And so if you ever forget, you can just consult these pictures. The first step is we're going to take the thread and put it under this metal hook. Next, we bring it under this lip here. The dashed line shows for winding the bobbin. You bring it over here to the right. And now this part is important. We have to make sure that we wrap it around the tension disc properly so that you don't get a tangled mess. You bring it under this tiny arm clockwise. And now you're next to the disc and you wrap it counterclockwise. And now when you pull it, you'll see that there's some resistance.
Would you mind doing that again quickly?
So,
In here?
again, under. It's designed to not come out. Hold on. Alright, so we're going to go under this arm, beneath this lip, pull it to the right, make sure it's under here. And now at this point, we're going to wrap it around this tiny arm going clockwise. And now pull it around the tension disc counterclockwise. When you do this correctly, you should feel it resisting. Now we can start to wind this. Just wrap it around a few times going clockwise, and then there is a small knife under here that will snip your extra thread. Now, to put it into the machine into the mode for winding the bobbin, you push it to the right. You'll hear a thump, and that means that it's in the correct spot. The next step is typically you're going to want to turn the speed all the way to the max to have this happen as quickly as possible. And then with your foot on the pedal, press lightly. You'll notice it's already starting to wind, and now I can speed it up. You'll know that the bottom bobbin has been filled when the thread starts to rub against this gray arm here. So now that we're done, we can push this back to the left to put the machine back into sewing mode, and then use our little knife to snip the thread. And now the bottom thread has been wound.
Nice.
Now we're going to thread the whole machine in order to sew. The first step is the seam, where we bring the thread underneath the silver arm and underneath the lip. But now the arrow points down because we have to wind it through here. The step is quite simple. You're going to trace the letter N backwards. When you're done tracing it, you'll know you're complete. First, you want to look in here, and you'll see there is a small mechanical arm, the silver arm here. We want this to be at the top. So you can either use the dial and put the arm back to the top, or if you prefer, you can press the button twice to lower and raise the needle, and by default, the arm will be at the top. So let's trace the letter N following these numbers written onto the side of the machine.
You press this button twice?
The needle button.
You press this button twice.
The needle button.
Cool.
Yes.
Needle button twice.
So let's go 2, 3 is under and up, 4 is around the arm. You want to make sure that it is actually hooked onto the arm here. And now 5, the last step is to thread the needle. There is a little lip here, and you're going to kind of floss the thread through it like you floss your teeth. And then you can pull it taut. Now, you can either choose to thread the needle by hand, or we can use this guy here, which is the automatic threader. There's a lever here, and we're going to push it down halfway. At the halfway point, we loop this around counterclockwise, around the little arm. Push this down all the way until you can't push anymore, and then loop the thread through this little slit on both sides of the needle. Once you've done that, you pull the thread backwards and let go. If you push it down all the way, you'll find that the thread makes a little loop through the eye of the needle, and then you can just pull the thread out. And then the last step is to make sure that the thread is going between the legs of the presser foot and going back. Now we're going to insert and thread the bottom bobbin. The bottom bobbin also has pictures here on the machine showing you how to do it. So you're going to want to make sure first that the thread is unwinding in the counterclockwise direction as shown on the arrow here. Since we know that this is now winding the correct way, we drop it into the hole here. Then with our other hand, we press down with our finger. This step is important so that you make sure that the thread will properly be threaded through. There is actually a tiny hook underneath this plastic arm here, and if you do not get onto that hook, then the bottom tension will be off because the thread is too loose. So press down with your finger and make a sweeping arc in the direction of the arrow. And now all we have to do is keep going through this little slit and pull on this knife, and now the bottom has been threaded. All you have to do now is put the plate back on top of the bobbin, and it'll click in place. To bring the bottom thread up so you can start sewing, all you have to do is either use the dial on the side to move the machine forward, or press the needle button twice. Once to put it down, and twice to bring it back up. Pull Make sure you're holding onto the top thread when you do this so that it doesn't get sucked into the bottom. And so when you do that, you pull this tight backwards, and now the bottom thread has been brought up. In order to pull it out, we can just use this lever here, which controls the presser foot. If we push it up, it raises the pressure foot an extra bit, and we can reach our finger under and grab the thread. Maybe. Now the machine is ready to sew. Last thing, just to keep things tidy, you're probably going to want to have this thread only be 2 to 3 inches long. This is very long and can easily get tangled here on the plate, and then the machine will jam and you'll get frustrated because there's a huge knot underneath your sewing. So just take the thread and come over here to this side where we have another convenient little knife. If we bring it up around here and pull lightly, the threads are cut and they're the perfect length to start sewing. Howdy, how we doing? Scenario